Angela Brooks sat motionless in the sterile hush of the hospital room, the soft beep of machines her only company. Her face was pale beneath the crisp white bandages that cocooned her eyes, masking everything but the faint bruise on her temple. Outside, the world hummed along unknowingly, but inside this room, time stretched thin, like the quiet before something breaks. The door opened with a gentle click. Footsteps, the scent of antiseptic, trailed behind the man in the white coat who approached her bedside with practiced ease. "Angela," the doctor said, his voice low and calm. "The good news is that your optic nerves are intact. The trauma from the crash caused temporary blindness, but you should regain your sight in a few weeks. We'll monitor you closely." She nodded slowly, murmuring a quiet thank you. He couldn't see the way her fingers tightened slightly on the edge of the blanket. She didn't ask for more details, didn't press for scans or prognosis, because she already knew the truth. She could see Dot not well, not perfectly. The lights were too bright, the outlines still a bit fuzzy, but vision had returned hours ago, in blurred shapes and colors, and she had told no one. Not the nurse who brought her water, not her assistant who came in wringing her hands, and certainly not Jordan. Her husband had sat at her bedside earlier, touching her hand with a tenderness that felt like a performance. His voice, usually her anchor in chaos, had sounded too polished, too careful. He had kissed her forehead and said all the right things, but his eyes, she had cracked her lids just enough to see his eyes were elsewhere, flat, empty, like he was going through the motions. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of building a life, of holding each other up through missed IPOs, family, deaths, late nights, and cross-country flights. 10 years of believing they were on the same team, but something had shifted. In the past few months, his touch had cooled. His excuses had multiplied: late meetings, dead phones, vague answers to direct questions. The man who used to lean into her had begun to lean away. Angela didn't know when the doubt had turned into suspicion. Maybe it was the weekend trip he took alone. Maybe it was the bank alert she wasn't supposed to see. Or maybe it was just her instincts, sharp, honed from a life of corporate maneuvering, telling her that the man she loved might be hiding something. So when the doctor said she was blind, she stayed blind. She would let the world believe it, because now she had a plan. She would watch without watching, listen when no one thought she could. Jordan would show her who he really was when he thought she was in the dark. This wasn't about revenge. This was about truth, about trust. Angela Brooks had led companies through crises, clawed her way through boardroom politics, outsmarted investors and rivals. But this was her most personal test yet. Not just of vision, of loyalty, of love, and she wasn't going to blink. Angela Brooks was born in the heart of Lagos, the bustling, electric city that taught her survival before ambition. She was the middle child of 5 in a house where power outages were routine and nothing came easy. Her father believed in discipline and books. Her mother, a nurse, believed in hard work and prayer. From them, Angela inherited resilience and a quiet fire that would come to define her. By the time she reached her 20s, her aptitude for computers had already begun to set her apart. She moved to Atlanta on a student visa with a scholarship and a second-hand laptop, determined to create a future so solid that no one could ever take it from her. What she built was more than a futurette, was a fortress. Brookstech, the cybersecurity firm she founded in a tiny co-working space with 2 borrowed monitors, had grown into a national powerhouse. Angela became one of the youngest black female CEOs in the country, hailed in Forbes and courted by defense contractors and tech giants alike. Her reputation was immaculate, powerful, elegant, composed. She was known for being both unshakable in meetings and graceful at gala dinners, a rare blend of steel and silk that made her unforgettable in any room. And then there was Jordan. They met at a networking event in Midtown when she was still debugging code for rent money and working 2 jobs. He was smooth, confident, fresh out of an MBA program with a $1,000 smile and an easy laugh. Unlike the arrogant finance types that usually tried to impress her, Jordan listened. He saw her ambition and called it beautiful. He pushed her to aim higher, helped revise her pitch decks, encouraged her to take risks. In the early days, he was her co-conspirator, her cheerleader, her anchor. When they married, it felt like destiny, 2 dreamers building something together. But dreams evolve. Angela's rose like a skyscraper, Jordan's drifted. His ventures, pop-up real estate consultancies, boutique property flips, half-finished. Websites never gained traction. She covered the losses at first with gentle encouragement, then with growing frustration, now without comment. The man who once bragged about being her partner barely made eye contact with her across the marble kitchen island. He took longer business trips now, to meet investors she never saw. His phone was always face down, always on silent. He no longer kissed her forehead when he walked past. He laughed freely at parties, but barely smiled when they were alone. The signs were small at first: missed calls, strange receipts, a lipstick smudge once brushed off as someone else's glass. Angela didn't want to believe it. She'd always prided herself on her rationality, her unwillingness to indulge in paranoia or gossip. So when Sophia, her assistant of 6 years, raised a brow at Jordan's erratic schedule, Angela had shut it down. Sophia was fiercely loyal, protective even, but Angela wasn't going to accuse her husband based on intuition, until intuition was all she had left. Their home in Buckhead, a sleek modernist marvel with floor-to-ceiling windows and lighting, felt like a showroom these days. Expensive, curated, and utterly cold. The silence between them echoed off the imported stone walls. They barely touched. Conversations had withered into logistics. The intimacy was gone, replaced with civility and unspoken distance. She had built this home for the life she thought they were living. Now it felt like a stage set, and Jordan moved through it like an actor with a rehearsed script. Angela was exhausted. Not from work she thrived under pressure, but from pretending not to notice the unraveling, from swallowing the questions that clawed at her throat, from wondering if she had missed something, if she had misread the man she once trusted more than anyone. But she wasn't broken. No, she was something sharper, determined, calculating. The car accident had been unexpected, nothing fatal. Just bad timing, a sideswipe on a rainy morning. But the doctor's diagnosis of temporary blindness had handed her something more valuable than any tech patent: the element of surprise. And Angela, always a strategist, saw the opportunity for what it was. She wouldn't confront Jordan, not yet. Not while he could deflect or perform. She would watch him, unseen, unfiltered. She would let him believe she was blind, vulnerable, in the dark, and then she would learn the truth, not the version he chose to share, but the one he thought she'd never see. Angela returned home in a sleek black wheelchair, the hospital's discharge papers still warm in Sophia's bag. She wore blackout glasses, opaque and thick, concealing the truth behind them. Her sight had already begun to return. Not perfectly, but enough. The house, with its sterile white walls and sharp corners, seemed colder than she remembered. The floors gleamed under the soft light, untouched by chaos, untouched by life. Jordan met her at the door with open arms and a bright smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He kissed her forehead, held her hand with just enough pressure, and whispered, "I'll take care of everything, babe. Just rest." His voice was soft, almost tender, but underneath it there was something rehearsed, something too precise. He guided her through the house like she was made of glass. She played her part, nodding slowly, pretending to need help down the hallway, murmuring gratitude. Every moment felt like a performance, one she was watching from behind a dark veil. That night, he tucked her into bed as if she were a child, brushing her hair back and lingering at the doorway. But Angela didn't sleep. She waited. The silence of the house was different now. Still, she could feel the shift in the air, the weight of lies hidden in plain sight. The next morning, she woke early to the sound of hushed voices. Jordan's voice, low and urgent, leaked through the cracked door of the guest bathroom down the hall. "She can't see a thing," he whispered and paused. "We're almost there." Angela's body froze. Her breath hitched in her throat. As she leaned slightly toward the sound, the soft hum of betrayal rising with each word. She couldn't see his face, but she could imagine the one he was wearing, the same one he wore when pitching investors. Confident and convincing, she didn't confront him, not yet. But the illusion of safety cracked that night. After pretending to drift off to sleep in the dim silence of their bedroom, Angela slipped out of bed and stood by the stairwell, listening. Jordan was in her home office. The door clicked shut. And then came the sounds, the faint tap of keystrokes, the almost inaudible hum of a file transfer. He moved with quiet efficiency, like someone who had done this before. Then came a sharper sound, the metallic whisper of the desk drawer opening. The click of a USB drive. Her fingers curled against the railing. He was deleting files. She could hear it in the rhythm of the mouse clicks, the subtle pause of someone confirming a permanent decision. He was removing her, piece by piece. Angela called Sophia the next morning. Her assistant didn't ask questions, she just arrived. They sat in the sitting room Angela rarely used, curtains drawn, phones locked in a signal-proof pouch. Angela explained everything in hushed tones. Sophia's eyes hardened. "We'll get proof," she said. "He won't see us coming." Within hours, she had discreetly installed hidden cameras in Angela's office, bedroom, and the common areas, along with an audio logging system tucked into a digital frame on Angela's nightstand. Angela no longer had to guess. She would know, and what she learned made her stomach churn. 3 nights later, sitting alone with Sophia in the sunken den, Angela listened to the first recording. Jordan's voice rang through the speaker, laughing, light. "She walks around like a ghost, blind, clueless. You should see her." Then another voice, female, warm, intimate, cut in. "Baby, don't make me jealous." Angela's breath caught. The woman's laughter mingled with Jordan's. "Relax," he said. "We're almost there. She's too proud to suspect anything." Angela stared ahead, unmoving. Her hands clenched around the fabric of her sweater, her body taut with disbelief. Every word unraveled another thread of the life she thought she knew. This wasn't just about infidelity. It was about betrayal on every level. Jordan wasn't just lying. He was planning something, with someone else. Something that required her out of the way, both literally and legally. Angela had built empires, navigated boardrooms full of sharks, but she had never imagined the deadliest betrayal would come from the man who once vowed to protect her. Her world had not just cracked, it had detonated, but beneath the pain, something colder began to rise. Not panic, not grief, focus. Angela Brooks had faked blindness for answers. Now she had them, and she would not be the one left in the dark. Angela moved through the house like a ghost, her silence more calculated than mournful. Each step was deliberate, each nod of gratitude to Jordan a performance sharpened by pain. The cameras Sophia installed fed her an unfiltered view of the truth she'd once tried to ignore. From her encrypted tablet, hidden beneath the folded sweaters in her walk-in closet, she watched it unfold scene by scene, betrayal by betrayal. Jordan, once her partner in struggle, now moved through their home like it belonged to him alone. He waited until late, until she was supposed to be sedated, then brought her into the house. Camille. Had only seen her once, from the corner of a grainy camera feed. Tall, elegant, wearing perfume Angela could practically smell through the screen, expensive and smug. Camille moved through the living room with the comfort of someone who had been there before. Jordan guided her with a hand on her lower back, whispering things too low for the microphones to catch. They poured wine from the vintage rack. Angela had curated herself, laughed softly as if the walls weren't saturated with memories. When Camille sat on the edge of the Bedangelus bed and Jordan kissed her neck, the breath caught in Angela's throat. She didn't look away. Couldn't she watched as Jordan opened Angela's private laptop and pulled up a banking portal. Passwords she thought only she knew slipped easily under his fingers. Her accounts, her name, her money. Then came the paperwork, real estate documents she recognized from Brooksteck's legal team. Only they weren't for Brooksteck. They were for a penthouse in Midtown, bought under Camille's name, funded with Angela's offshore emergency reserve. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was surgical. This wasn't a man who was slipping away. This was a man cutting himself free and building a new life on the ashes of hers. During the day, Jordan continued his act. He brought her tea she didn't drink, placed gentle kisses on her temple, rubbed her shoulders like a devoted husband. "I know it's hard," he murmured, "but we'll get through this, together." Angela nodded, even smiled once or twice. She kept her eyes behind the blackout glasses, let him believe the illusion. Every lie he told while kneeling beside her bed was another nail in his own coffin. Sophia couldn't take it. One afternoon, after reviewing the latest audio logs, Jordan on the phone laughing about how Angela thinks she's still in control. Sophia stood in Angela's office with tears in her eyes. "You have enough, more than enough. Just end it, Angela. Call the lawyers, call the police, call someone." Her voice cracked. "He's robbing you blind." But Angela only shook her head. Calm, focused. "Not yet," she said. "He thinks I'm weak. Let him finish the con. Then I finish him." That night, she couldn't sleep. The footage kept looping in her mind, over and over again. Camille in her robe, Jordan laying on her pillows, the way he called Angela's ambition a disease. "She's obsessed with control," he told Camille. "Always has to win. I can't stand her ego anymore." Angela sat alone on the bathroom floor, the lights off, the sound of the fan humming above her like static. Her knees were drawn to her chest, her arms wrapped around them as if trying to keep herself from falling apart. The tears came fast, hot, unrelenting, not the quiet ones, but the kind that came from deep within, the kind that choke you. For the first time in years, she sobbed, not for the money, not for the house or the business, but for the man who used to sleep beside her on a mattress in a one-bedroom apartment, who used to bring her street tacos at midnight while she coded late into the night. She remembered him grinning at her over a flickering candle when the power went out, saying, "One day you'll run the world, and I'll be the guy who brags that I married you first." She remembered how he once called her his miracle. That man was gone. She lay on the tile for nearly an hour before rising to her feet. Her eyes were red, her limbs sore, but her mind was clear. The grief had scorched something inside her clean. Angela Brooks had built an empire from nothing, and if she had to reduce her life to rubble to build something new again, she would. The next morning, while Jordan kissed her cheek and said he had to step out for a work meeting, Angela sat at her desk with her tablet and began compiling everything: emails, voice memos, security footage, financial transfers. She labeled each file with timestamps, sourcing everything down to metadata. This was no longer just personal. This was evidence, facts, a case that no court, no jury, no board of directors could ignore. A separate file held her new will, power, of attorney transfers and emergency backups stored securely in the cloud. Her digital life was now locked behind new encryption protocols Jordan would never crack. She titled the master folder, Operation Burn Everything Quietly. Angela wasn't going to scream. She wasn't going to rage. She was going to dismantle him with the same precision she used to build Brooks' deck, methodical, invisible, unstoppable. And when she was done, Jordan wouldn't just lose the money or the woman or the house. He would lose Angela, and that would be the part he never saw coming. Angela prepared the dining room herself, down to the placement of the wine glasses and the perfect fold of the linen napkins. She sat at the head of the long table, blackout glasses still in place, her expression soft, composed. When Jordan walked in, she smiled faintly and reached out a hand. "I've been thinking," she said gently, "about the future. In case I don't recover." Jordan's brow furrowed, but he masked it quickly. "Don't say that," he replied, taking her hand. "You're going to be fine." Angela tilted her head, her voice low and sincere. "Still, I want to update my will. Make sure you're taken care of. You've done so much already." Jordan's lips parted, and for the first time in weeks, his smile seemed real. "Of course, babe. That's smart. Whatever you need." She nodded, then added casually, "I'll be transferring $5 million into a joint account tomorrow, just so everything's in one place." Jordan's hand tightened around hers. "That's generous," he said, eyes flicking toward her glasses, scanning for any trace of suspicion. But Angela gave him nothing, just a soft smile and a slow nod. "I trust you," she said. The words left a bitter taste in her mouth, but she said them anyway. Jordan kissed her hand, told her he loved her, and promised to stay in that night. But just past 11, she heard the garage door open. She watched the camera feed from her hidden security room as Jordan's car slipped into the night. Camille arrived shortly after Angela didn't blink. She watched them uncork a bottle of champagne in the living room, dancing around like two teenagers who had stolen something precious. "She's actually giving you $5 million, Camille said between laughs. "She's so helpless, it's almost sad." Jordan poured the champagne and clinked glasses with her. "This is it." he said. Our win. One more day, and it's done. Camille purred in response, pulling him close, murmuring something obscene that made Angela's stomach turn. But she didn't look away. Instead, she opened her laptop in under 30 minutes. She froze every joint account, transferred the rest of her liquid assets into protected corporate vaults under her control, and locked them behind a rotating passkey known only to her lawyer. The files she'd collected, the voice recordings, video footage, banking evidence were uploaded to 3 secure servers and then sent in a timed batch to her legal team, the IRS and Brooksteck's board of directors. She scheduled everything for delivery at 6 a.m. sharp. Then she sat back, hands folded, and waited for dawn. When the sun rose over Buckhead the next morning, the house was already awake. Angela descended the staircase slowly, deliberately, one hand grazing the smooth glass rail. No glasses, no hesitation. The heels of her shoes echoed through the entryway like gunshots. Jordan was in the kitchen, coffee in hand, scrolling through his phone. He looked up and froze. The mug slipped from his hand, shattering against the tile. "You can see," he whispered. Angela stepped closer. Her eyes, clear and sharp, met his, with devastating calm. "I never stopped." Camille stepped out from the hallway just then, hair tangled, wearing one of Angela's silk robes. She took one look at Angela and went still, her mouth parting slightly in disbelief. Angela walked to the kitchen island and placed a thick envelope on the marble surface. "You'll want to sign that," she said, her tone even. "Divorce papers. Effective immediately." Jordan stood there, dumbfounded, while Camille's eyes narrowed in panic. Angela continued, "I've also notified the IRS, my lawyers, and Brooksteck's board of directors about your embezzlement. The footage is backed up in 4 different countries. Even if you try to run, it'll follow you." Jordan's mouth opened, then closed again. "Angela, this isn't." His voice broke, the smooth veneer of confidence shattered. Camille let out a bitter laugh, grabbed her handbag, and stormed out without another word. Angela didn't flinch. She turned, picking up the coat she had placed on the back of a chair, and walked past Jordan like he was a stranger. No threats, no screaming, no explanations, just finality. As she stepped out into the morning light, the weight of the house behind her felt distant, like something she'd already let go of. The woman who walked through the front door was not a victim, she was free. Jordan tried to fight back. Within days of being served, he filed a countersuit, claiming Angela had manipulated him, staged the entire ordeal, and violated his trust. He painted himself as the devoted husband misled by a calculating wife who pretended to be blind for the sake of revenge. But the courtroom wasn't a place for charm, and the evidence Angela presented was undeniable. High-resolution video footage captured him in their bedroom with Camille. Voice recordings laid bare his schemes to siphon money and transfer assets behind Angela's back. Financial records tracked every unauthorized transaction, every lie. And then Camille flipped, faced with perjury charges and potential financial liability. She testified for the prosecution. Her sworn statements aligned perfectly with Angela's timeline, confirming everything from the fake business trips to the penthouse bought in her name. When the judge delivered the ruling, it was swift and devastating. Angela retained full ownership of her assets, company shares, and estate. Jordan walked away with nothing but the clothes he came in with, and the silence that followed a public fall from grace. In the weeks that followed, Angela moved forward with a clarity she hadn't felt in years. She restructured Brooksteck, bringing Sophia in as Chief Operating Officer. It wasn't just a gesture of gratitude, it was strategy. Sophia had earned it with loyalty and sharp instincts, and Angela knew she needed people around her who didn't just work hard, but cared deeply. The company flourished under the new leadership, leaner and more resilient. Angela made space, not only for innovation, but also for values transparency, protection, and integrity at every level. Privately, she began therapy, not just for the betrayal, but for everything that came before it. The years she brushed off discomfort as paranoia, the moments she questioned her own instincts to avoid confrontation, the slow erosion of herself in the name of love. Therapy didn't fix it all overnight, but it gave her language for what she'd endured. And more importantly, it helped her rewrite the story she told herself. She wasn't foolish, she wasn't naive, she had loved deeply, and someone had exploited that. The shame didn't belong to her. For the first time in over a decade, Angela chose to remain single. Not because she was angry or afraid to trust again, but because she was learning to trust herself first. She filled her time with purpose. Long walks without a destination, nights without obligation, mornings filled with silence and peace instead of tension. She found joy in rebuilding not her image, but her center. Months later, at a Women in Tech panel in San Francisco, Angela stood on stage beneath soft lighting, speaking to an auditorium of bright, driven women. The theme of the conference was resilience, and her keynote was titled, "See with your spirit, not just your eyes." She spoke of success, of blindness, both literal and metaphorical, of trusting your inner voice even when the world tells you you're imagining things. She didn't name names. She didn't need to. Her presence alone was the story. The applause was thunderous, but more powerful were the quiet nods in the audience, the silent acknowledgements of women who had seen parts of themselves in hers. Angela stepped off the stage, not as someone starting over, but as someone moving forward, whole, clear-eyed. Unafraid, Angela sat at the same table where Jordan had once kissed Camille, the polished wood still gleaming beneath the soft pendant light. The room was silent, now no laughter, no betrayal hidden in shadows, just stillness. She poured herself a glass of wine, letting the silence stretch out like a breath she no longer had to hold. The air felt different, lighter. She reached into the drawer beside her and pulled out an old photo she and Jordan years ago, sitting on a threadbare couch in their first apartment, smiling with tired eyes and cheap takeout in their laps. They had nothing then, but they had each other, or so she believed. She looked at the photo for a long moment before sliding it back into the drawer. Not with bitterness, but with finality. Some things didn't need to be carried forward. Opening her laptop, she refreshed her inbox. At the top was a new message subject, Mentorship Proposal for Women Founders Initiative. She clicked it open, reading the outline of a program that aimed to support women navigating the tech space, offering guidance, funding, and a voice. Her lips curved into a soft smile. This was the future she wanted to shape. Not a reaction to betrayal, but a step toward something better. She took another sip of wine, the glow of the screen reflecting in her clear, steady eyes. If there had been a camera rolling, the voiceover would have come quiet but sure. Sometimes you pretend to be blind just to see who's been lying all along. And when the truth finally shows itself, you don't lose. You rise.